goodness. Yeah. And so let's look at the initial verse. Lack of faith in the right truth results in deluded thinking. So the lack of faith, what is indeed the faith? Few lessons ago, Master mentioned about the 10 practices of faith, from the faith itself and all the way up to number 10, which is the vows. So if you look at this faith, so to address this lack of faith is to go through this 10 practices that Master explained a few lessons ago. So the last one is vow. Vow, as you noticed some time ago, I said vow is actually your aspiration of faith. Okay, so this is where you say the faith. Obviously, Bodhisattva vows being the faith that you put in into indefinite lifetimes until enlightenment is reached. Right? This is what the faith is. Thus, we hesitate and cannot understand, lacking the awakening about the faith. So that's the reason why, obviously, just by taking the vows doesn't mean that one can then automatically open up and we can understand. That's why there are 10 steps to that practice, from having the faith, dedication of merits, and so on, until you grow into that unwavering faith, firm faith, and so on. And that explanation will take a long time to explain, but basically you've got to build on that faith. So the right Dharma contains the seeds of goodness. By eradicating deluded karma, we can illuminate the chasing the true Satchitananda. We'll talk a little bit about what's called by deluded karma. When our thoughts and afflictions converge, we will engage in the wrong kind of behavior. So we must accurately deduce, examine, understand the true principles. So understand the principles. Yesterday, Master talked about the 3 courses, right? So you got the right course when you hear the Dharma, then the revealing course, which is getting to understand the principles, and this is what it is. So to understand the principles, that is realization, and then one realizes it's hard to really understand those principles. So we must not deviate in our thinking. If our thinking becomes biased, our thoughts will be led astray. And so we must understand how the mind works. And the whole practice, if you were to get into it, is to actually observe your own mind. Observing your own mind when you're a child, observing your own mind when you're sitting, observe your own mind when you work, observing your own mind, even to the extent that you observe your mind when you sleep. Obviously, that would be a very, very high level of practice, but this observing your mind will help you not deviate in the thinking. So we must make an effort to abide in these principles of the right views. But this right views, obviously having got the right understanding of the principles, which go back to this line. Otherwise, we hesitate and do not understand what is right from wrong. So when you understand, it's just like in the Dharma about emptiness, right? You got the emptiness, you got the skandhas, and then form is emptiness, emptiness is form. But how do you discern then what is right, what is wrong, what is wrong, what is emptiness? So therefore, that is the part that distinguishes between right and wrong, is the wisdom. So very wrong doesn't mean that is wrong. And to understand the truth, and truth is there in the Dharma. So therefore, that's why what we need to do is to understand what the principles of the right views are. So Master say that having no faith at all is better than having faith in superstitions. If we are superstitious of a delusion, to lead our mind to all directions, become confused. But how is a superstition then arise? So let's start with the Dharma. The Dharma is about the truth, but truth cannot be explained. Truth has to be learned and understood. So when we listen to Dharma, Master teaches and express it in words. Then Master say, go and learn the principles. So it's from the principles that we try to understand the truth. But the problem is that truth cannot be taught. Neither can it be explained. We can try to indicate that in words. So when truth is not well learned and understood, it becomes a belief. Now, if a belief is not thoroughly understood, it becomes a myth. When a myth is not well explained, it becomes a superstition. And so you see the levels of degradation of how superstition can arise. So we must prevent anything that is not Dharma from entering our mind. So when it is the right Dharma, we must be certain of it, then accept it. So you see, for us, number one, we are householders. Number two is Dharma degenerating it. So therefore, we got to be then very careful that a lot of practices are out there and a lot of beliefs are out there. I just explained to you, a belief is when the truth is not well learned and understood. So we must have faith in the right truth, and this faith in the right truth, and explain the 10 practices that involve in that, and ultimately it will be always some vows that you need to uphold in that faith. So in eradicating delusion, people are deluded by the shapes and forms of the outside world. And the shapes and form, and I think it was yesterday, right? Master mentioned Dharma can be round, it can be square. So therefore, the shapes of Dharma accommodating the truth, and because it's all encompassing truth, so it doesn't matter what shape and what form it is, and we apply to that. And there's a reason why, ultimately, but at the end of the day, what we want to practice, what you learn from observing impermanence, is to understand and realize equanimity. Because if it's in equanimity, then it doesn't matter what shape and forms there is in the way the phenomena or things that arises. So if you lack form faith, you'll remain unawakened. And the journey to this spiritual journey is one of immeasurable distance. It's not infinite, but it's in an immeasurable distance. And if so, we don't have that faith because this journey is so long. And that is the faith you need to uphold. And that is the aspirational vow that we need to uphold. So the right Dharma contains the seeds of goodness by eradicating deluded karma. Then we can illuminate the teaching. So eradicate, it's how do we eradicate that? By attaining the right understanding, by attaining realization. Then when we can apply that in our practice, and when all desires, afflictions, and ignorance are completely eradicated, then the true substance will emerge. But eradicating all this, it's easy to say, but get into practice, we must get not even understanding. We need to get the realization of the principles. We can even try to eradicate that. Otherwise, there's a reason why that the trapping between listening and then revealing and then arising causes, superstition can arise. And that's why my Master is trying to tell us in this teaching today. So in listening to teaching, we must bear correctly and penetrate precisely, which relates to the point that I mentioned some time ago, is to get into precision practice. And this is what it is. So in our daily living, as we deal with environment, let's be mindful of actions, and which you understand this part. So let me skip to this and go straight into the lessons learned. We cannot faithfully accept the Dharma. This will result in erroneous understanding. And that is part by how erroneous understanding can arise and can lead to belief, a myth, and ultimate superstition. So even if we faithfully accept it, if we mistakenly or intentionally err in our understanding, and that gives wrong explanation, is standing the sutra. And sundering the sutra, it's a very severe, attract very severe retribution, which I'm sure Master will explain. If people do not believe and understand this sutra, they cut off all the worldly sins. Sisabuddha, I mean, cut off Sisabuddha, imagine and you're born into the lower realms, and there is no Dharma. So the Dharma is only spoken in either and in the human realm or in Tusita heaven. Not even all heaven, it's only in Tusita heaven when they were taught in there. So because we do not believe in the sutra that give us the threefold karma, which is the body, speech, and mind, which you all understand this very well. So in contemplation, a short one today in the interest of time. The truth is like the sun, right? Because it's illuminated. And if you understand the function of the sun, you then understand the sun isn't the sun is like a bodhisattva who serves selflessly. And that is only a virtue we should have to remember. So the truth is like the sun. You cannot cover it, because if you do, it will burn you one day. And also you cannot hide it. And but if you can hide from it, you can hide the sun, but you can hide from the sun. But if you do, one will always remain delusional. And that is the reason why, even despite this Dharma degenerating age, I must keep reminding us that we learn as much as we can, and we illuminate ourselves from within, even though outside may be in darkness. So in relationship, and being mindful relationship, a moment of unawareness is the doorway of ignorance, because sometimes we don't know what we do in a relationship. We need to be mindful and aware. So the door of ignorance is a slip of delusion, and because we are enlightened beings, we can easily slip into that. That's the reason we got to watch our mind all the time. So therefore, we need to be mindful in our relationship in every moment. Okay, thank you.
Gan En, Brother Chin, for another session of marvelous sharing and insight. Yes, Brother Chin and Sister Carving need to leave us. Can be on our videos and catch a good photo before we allow them to leave us.
BrotherChin, if I may, Brother Robert, if I may ask
sure.
BrotherChin a question before he leaves. BrotherChin, just now you mentioned that one, I mean, in Master's explanation or the lessons learned is where we erroneously or mistakenly, intentionally or unintentionally in explaining. But this explaining sometimes it's not just in the words, right? It is inclusive of the actions that we conduct, isn't it?
I'm so glad you say that. Very good. It's because when you that is another
meaning, like if we do, but this is so, like you say, precise. It has to be so precise, because sometimes people are still new and sometimes people are already long time. So every single action represents, let's say we are in Tzu Chi, that every single action represents the word Tzu Chi, you know. So sometimes our actions, people see, oh, like that, then because people will slander Tzu Chi, you know, because
okay, this part is called exemplary practice.
Right, but we're not even there yet sometimes, isn't it?
Right.
So the karma, the retribution from it, sorry.
It's called exemplary practice, okay? So I just shared with you very briefly, become a worthy, become an exemplar, become a faithful, become a beloved. Okay.
I think I have to move near your house, lah.
So before you can become an exemplary practitioner, you need to be a worthy practitioner.
Bye-bye.
You got to prove your worth, then become exemplary. Okay. So exemplary practice, is a big time explanation. That's no time to explain.
So the commissioning process should take longer, Brother Robert.
Brother Chin, I think
with Brother Chin, you know.
I think all of us must take turn to go and stay in Brother Chin's house. I think Brother Chin got extra rooms, no worries.
No, I don't want with Brother Chin,
Before even reach the first stage of being a worthy, learn the 5 commitments. Sometime a few days ago I spoke about. Okay.
Right.
So you see, a householder in practice, that's why I say householder in practice do not have all those 200-300 vows. So what do? Right? You be committed. So when you're committed, what are you changing? What are you transforming? Learn to be worthy, learn to be exemplary. Because a sangha walks wearing the robe, and robe that robe is a powerful message. We don't. So what is the robe we are wearing? We're wearing the exemplary robe.
Tzu Chi uniform.
But you take out the uniform, gone, right? So therefore, you need to have the inner illumination. And what is that illumination that you have? Before you can be illuminated, learn to become an exemplary. Okay? Article go.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the keyword today is learn to eliminate yourself first.
Yeah. Yes. Light your light first.